Hi guys, and welcome to another kit review. Alright, so today we're having a look at a kit that I picked up for Christmas. Okay, one of the kits that I spoilt myself with, and it is, as you can see, a DeLorean from the Back to the Future movie. This is the DeLorean from Part 1. This one is by Aoshima, and it is in 1/24 scale, and the kit number is 011850. So this is the first DeLorean. In part 2 you'll see various differences with the color of the wiring, color of some of the engine components, and of course it does have, because it's come back from the future, it has the Mr. Fusion on the top there, and then of course in the part 3, which is the Western Back to the Future, you'll see the wheels are different. Okay, but this is number 1. Okay, so it is fairly basic fit out. Okay, nothing too fancy as far as the wiring is concerned. This kit cost me around, I believe it was around $60. It was advertised for more, but I got an offer from the seller, and I just went, yeah, why not? I've always wanted to have a DeLorean, so especially a time machine, so why not? Okay, so let's have a look. As you can see, this is a photo of the actual Back to the Future DeLorean. Okay, this is not the model, so that gives you a good idea of the color scheme for this car. All right, which is basically a DeLorean, was all stainless steel body. All right, let's have a look at the rest of the box. On the sides you'll see 2 photos of the actual kit, and you'll notice that this one you can also have the hook arrangement, which was used in the end of part 1 to power the DeLorean, so you do have some options in there as well. On the other side you've just got your usual cautions, recommended paints, etc. This is all in Japanese, and is of course licensed to Universal City Studios, Amblin, etc, etc. Okay, so that's the box. Let's see what I actually did pick up. Put that aside. First out, instructions. Okay, that's an interesting language there, so I guess that's Japanese. Okay, so we'll put that aside and have a look at that shortly. First throughout, all your clears and your decal sheet, which does include the dashboard instruments as well. Next one out is a collection of body parts, engine, wheels, which are chrome. Okay, interior, and of course we've got the body. We'll have a look at that shortly. And then next bag out is the body pan, black parts, tires, and a little sachet of grease, which is interesting. Okay, so not much in the way of bags or sprues. We'll put that aside, get rid of that, and in a second we will have a look at the instructions and the decals. Okay, so let's have a look at the instructions. Right, so up the top here, it's just Japanese, equivalent to your warnings about what tools to use, choking hazard, etc, etc. As you can see, Aoshima is Japanese model manufacturer. Okay, so let's have a look over leaf. Okay, these are your color callouts. It does have a warning here. I can see can't mix aqueous hobby color and Mr. color. All right, so obviously they've tried it and it doesn't work, so that's something to be aware of. You will need a nice stainless steel metallic color. I believe AK does have an extreme, one of their extreme metals in stainless steel. That's probably what I will be aiming for. How to apply the decals, and then we get onto painting the body and the chassis. And yes, they do spell chassis with an S. Okay, So there is a bit of painting on the bottom of the car. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. And there is a reasonable bit of painting on the sides and front, etc. of this body shell. So you'd probably want to get that out of the way, sealed and done well before you start anything else. Okay, so let's have a look. Right, so if we start on the body pan, and you'll see it does have a complex mechanism starting here on the inside, okay, with a button system, and then we start on the front axles, okay, which slide inside. And this is why you have the grease, because you do grease these bits. Now, interestingly enough, this is the DeLorean part from part 1, which didn't have folding wheels. However, this particular car does have folding wheels, so it is a hybrid between the part 1 and part 2 DeLoreans. As far as I can tell, this car, this kit anyway, doesn't have the Mr. Fusion attachment that the part 2 had, but it does have the folding wheels. Okay, this being a part 1 DeLorean, I will build it as a part 1 DeLorean. I will play with and probably install the folding wheel mechanism, just because it's a gimmick and I'd like to see how it works. But apart from that, it will be displayed to my liking as a part 1 and painted as a part 1 DeLorean. Okay, so we just continue on with the mechanism, and here you can see this is how it works. You move the button and the entire axle system moves from vertical to horizontal and back again. Right, so that will be an interesting thing to have a fiddle with. Then you just carry on with the back system. It is exactly the same as the front. All right, so all 4 wheels will fold up or fold down as you like. Carrying on, and the parts are marked front and back, so you don't get some of them mixed up. Okay, and then we go on to the wheels and the tires. They attach. At that stage, if you were going to use that mechanism, that's when you'd make sure it all worked together. Then you carry on with the interior. So you do get the internal door parts. The doors do not open on this kit. Seats going in. There are painting details that you will have to do as you go. Dashboard does have painting and decals that go in. Okay, so I would use your Google to actually have a look at the interior, just to make sure though that it is the part 1 DeLorean, because there were changes to the wiring, the colouring, etc. in part 2 and also part 3. So if you're modelling this as a part 1, that's where your references should be at. Okay, so then we carry on with some more interior parts and painting. That goes on the body. Okay, then we get to, this is your roof lining. Okay, this is actually your clear parts and your pieces that actually go into there. So that roof lining will have to be painted, as well as your interior door and window frames. Okay, there are decals to go on here. Then that just fits into place. All right, so that's your windows in. That's why I said at the beginning, get all your body painting done, sealed, perfect, because you will be fiddling around with that. It's easier to paint it without the windows in. All right, okay, so that's your windows going into the body. Then you get to your engine, so to speak. All right, so this is just, they call it, as they call it, an engine board. There's a fair bit of painting to go on there, and the painting is in the detailing with the wiring, etc. Again, Google references to see if you can actually add some extra wiring or bits and pieces in there to make it just that little bit more accurate. That goes into the body, and then the body goes on the pan. Easily done. And then you just carry on with, okay, and this is your side bits and pieces that go on. Headlights, there is painting to be done on there. So there's painting, like I said, as you go in this car. Windscreen wipers, front bumper. These are your exhaust sections. Okay, so you do get separate veins. That means you can actually paint this up and get a decent kind of feel to it for depth. If you wanted to, you could probably cut out the interior paneling and make it deeper, so it actually did have some depth to it. Okay, these get fitted on. Tail lights, there are decals that go on as well for the tail lights. A few more body parts and a bit more wiring. Okay, so you'd want to probably paint most of that up before you attach it, because it will be much easier. And then more engine parts going on. So all of these parts you would put together. You do get the extension pickup that was used in the end of part 1 Back to the Future. Your choice as to whether you want to use that or not. Okay, this goes underneath the back here. Final wiring is going on the sides. Okay, there are paint callouts as well. This is your stand, which I believe is actually clear to put the DeLorean on if you want to have the folding wheels. Okay, your choice as to you want to use that or not. Maybe you could use that for another model somewhere along the line. Okay, and that's it. Got sprue lay on the back, but there's no overall paint markings illustration. It's all included as an as you go, because there is a lot of painting that needs to be done as you build this kit. So we'll put that aside, and then let's have a look at the decals. So the decals, oh, get that focused. Okay, so original part 1 number plate. There are your tail light decals. I would be tempted to possibly have a look at actually painting it. Okay, they look a bit bland. Your interior. Okay, so there's your normal dashboard, and these are your time dials. Okay, you don't get a decal for the flux capacitor. That will have to be actually painted up just by yourself. Okay, but the decals look okay, not too bad, and considering the fact that you probably won't see them because they'll be on the dashboard in the car with no opening doors, I think they're passable. Okay, so that's the decals. I'll give you a still of that, and in a second we will have a look at sprues. Okay, so let's have a look at the sprues, and we'll start off with the body of the DeLorean. Okay, so first thing I can see, there's a mold. Well, I can't feel it with my fingernail, but there is definitely a mold mark in the plastic that runs down the center of the vehicle. Overall, the molding is quite sharp. This is your side wiring, and you'll notice, I think in the part 2 and part 3 DeLoreans, that this actually is different colors, but in the part 1 this was just plain black, I believe, from what I can recall from the color differences. That's the back, as you can see clearly, nicely DeLorean, but there is a minor dent that you can feel with your finger, but that shouldn't make any difference. It's easily patched. There's your front. Okay, so that's nicely done. I do like the molding in that. Inside, not much to see. Outside, okay, that is definitely a DeLorean, and from what I can see so far with the molding in this, it's really nicely sharp with no major mold problems or flash. Okay, so there's your body. let's have a look at the bottom. Okay, so there's only what, 1, 2, 7 sprues, including this one. Okay, so this is your body pan. These indents are all for the working mechanism for the wheels. As you can see, really nicely complex body pan, not just plain. There is a fair bit of painting to do on this, so I do like that. These points here are where the stand goes, so you can raise it off the ground and have the wheels sideways. If you had a DeLorean from the Part 2, that is, not the Part 1. And that, of course, that hole there, that's for your switches to move the wheels around. Okay, so there's your body pan. Next, let's have a look at... Okay, so this is your basic mechanism sprue, I guess you call that. Okay, these are your mechanisms and axles for the wheels. This is a section that keeps the whole mechanism in place. Okay, as you can tell, and I'll turn that around so you can see it, front and rear. So this is all mainly the mechanism for operating the wheels, which is why you need the grease. There isn't any flash on here. These are your windscreen wipers, okay, hubs of course, steering wheel, but majority of this particular sprue is your operating mechanism for the wheels. Okay, so there's no flash, it is nicely molded. Let's have a look at the steering wheel. See, not much even of a mold line. Okay, so the overall quality is really nicely done. Okay, so that's interesting. Got a missing part there. Okay, we'll have to have a look at that. Right, so we'll put that aside. And let's grab this section. Alright, so this is your engine, okay? These are the vanes for your exhaust tubes, I guess. Wiring, okay, and these are just parts for the interior, including, as you can see right there, the flux capacitor, okay? So these are your mechanisms and fittings for the outside of the vehicle. These go on the front engine, these go on the back at the sides, okay? There is a little bit of cleanup, sorry that went out, a little bit of cleanup required around some of the mold lines, but not too much, and the detail is really quite good, very sharp and crisp, so I do like that. All right, actually this is a really nice molding, and with the right paint job you could bring out a lot of detail in this one. Okay, so that is your engine and wiring sprue. So the next one is your interior. Okay, so interior pan, dashboard, okay, door cards, so to speak. Seats, let's have a look. Seats, so there's a bit of swirl in the plastic, but once this is painted you won't notice that. The detailing on the seats, really nice. Okay, as you can see, there's a nice swirl on the interior pan. So you would probably want to possibly use a texturing of some description to replicate carpet, because that is quite a large pan, and it will look very flat if you just paint it. Okay, there's your doors. So beautiful sharp detail. Okay, not much cleanup along the lines. There is your dashboard top. Okay, the wiring is nicely picked out, so which means that you can quite easily paint that up with some careful painting to highlight it all. That's your main dashboard area anyway, and the detailing is really nice. Okay, so a bit more wiring, bit more fittings for the engine, but it is quite crisp. There's clean up on some of the mold lines, but it's not major, and there's definitely no flash on that, so that is what I like. Okay, so you do have one little grey sprue, which is parts for the engine. Let's get that close up, and the detail on that is really nice. Okay, paint that up, give it a nice wash, and that will bring out all of that detail in a really nice highlight. So that, of course, is the hook that's used at the end of part 1 Back to the Future to put power into the DeLorean. Okay, so let's have a look at the only chrome parts. It's not, that was a bit shiny. Okay, so there are your wheels. They're not hollow, but oops, sorry, that went way too shiny. I do like the chrome finish. Okay, put a wash on that to darken between the spokes, and that should come out really nicely. Okay, not much to see on the other side. Okay, that's the side that you're going to see. That's the side that will really show up well. Okay, so there's your chrome. Let's have a look at the clears. Okay, so that is your main clear. Okay, and that is really nicely done. Okay, so you do get some fittings to go in these holes on the interior. There is your tail lights, headlights, etc. Okay, that there is your clear stand for raising the DeLorean off the ground. Okay, but yeah, I would be looking at, and I'd probably put the decals behind these and see how they looked before actually sticking them on. Just dry, what I mean, and then decide whether you're going to paint them or what you're going to do with those. Okay, so there's your clear sections. I do like those because they are really nice and clear. Okay, as I said, there's not an opening door on this car, and I think that would be way too hard with the gull wing concept. Alright, and the only other things I've got to show you is that. Whoop. That's your little bag of grease. Alright, genuine Aoshima grease. Alright, for the mechanism, polycaps, and 4 tyres. Let's have a look at the tyres. Alright, They do have a ridge down the middle of the tyres, which will need cleaning up, which will be an interesting challenge. They do have, okay, I'll get that in focus, you'll be able to see it. There you go, it does. Pirelli Cinturato P7s. Yes, I used to use Pirellis. I've got Pirellis on my car right now, actually. So yeah, great tyre. I do like my Pirellis. Used to use P3s. I can't remember what Pirelli I've got on right now, but hey, it's a 13-year-old hatchback, but it still has Pirelli tyres. I love it. Okay, so that is basically all of it, guys. That is Aoshima's DeLorean from Back to the Future Part 1. Okay, like I said, it has a mechanism to make the wheels go up and down, as it did with the Flying DeLorean Part 2. Whether you use that mechanism or not, it's entirely up to you. I'll be modeling this as you see it, the original DeLorean at the beginning of Part 1 from Back to the Future. Okay, and as usual, that brings us to the end of this review. And as usual, I'd just like to thank you for your subscriptions, your comments, your likes, the whole kit and caboodle. It is really much appreciated. And until next time, thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy. See you in the future.